Disclaimer before I start the actual part of the video, but when I simmed, I guess it didn't save, or maybe I closed the application before it saved and it just didn't save, whatever. But we were 28 and 19 in the first sim. I think we're the same record, or we might be 29 and 18. I don't remember, but just so you know that things might be a little different because of the way things saved. So let's get into it. We were really up and down the couple months that I simmed, but we are 28 and 19 right now before the deadline. There are some things that need to be taken care of before we move into the trade deadline stuff. We did extend Josh Richardson to a 2-year, $14 million contract, and I think that's pretty fair considering what he's given us and what he could still give us and what he can still improve on. He'll be 30 at the end of the deal, and so we can reevaluate when we get there. Other than that, we didn't extend anyone's contract before the deadline passed. Both Matisse Thybulle and Marvin Bagley said they don't want to re-sign, but little do they know they're restricted free agents and we match whatever they get. We sit right now at the 7th seed, and we're 3 games behind the 6th seeded Celtics. Somehow the Bucks are up there without Giannis. Don't ask me how. They have like Chris Middleton, Montrezl Harrell, OG Anunoby. So I don't know. I guess it's a well-rounded team. Also, I figured out that Bam is the one who went to the Hornets, and he's carried them to a 3 seed with 35 wins so far. Also, I didn't realize this until later, but Bagley is out for 4 to 6 weeks with some sort of ankle injury. That has also changed in the sim thing. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll put that back on. Maybe I won't. We'll see, I guess. Which will definitely hurt our chances at the playoffs. This may affect what we look to get at the trade deadline in terms of, if he's injured or not. Speaking of which, let's talk about Tobias Harris. I said at the end of last episode that we may look to move him before the deadline. I think we're also going to hold true to that. He's played well for us in the sim. I think he's averaging 17, 18 points a game on some pretty good efficiency, but he's just so awful defensively, and playing with him in a game is impossible. He also has that gargantuan contract that we'll likely have to give up assets to get off of, so I made it known that he was available and called around to see what we could get. Right away, one of the most realistic and probably feasible options is Tobias Harris in our 2023 unprotected first-round pick for Blake Griffin. This one is very clearly just a salary dump, and Griffin probably wouldn't even come back for us next season, so this would be purely for salary, pretty much. But, we can talk about the lineup possibilities with Blake Griffin. They're kind of interesting. He'd probably play a lot of center. He'd probably move to backup center and play some power forward, considering that's Ben's main position now. He obviously won't be playing power forward when Ben is there, so maybe he'd come in towards the end of the first when Ben is running the point. He's somewhat gotten a shot over the last few years, but I still think teams are going to dare him to shoot, which hurts a little bit. This season, I think he's shooting like 27%, 28%, which is not respectable at all. But it's not too different from what Marvin Bagley provides us from 3. He's also got a bit of a ball handling ability, which could actually prove pretty versatile when he's in the game. 5 guys able to handle the ball as well as play make a little bit could be deadly against slower big guys who might not be able to defend guys off the dribble that well. The only problem I think would be playing him at power forward next to Marvin Bagley, because that puts 3 guys on the court that the defense are going to dare to shoot. That clogs the lane for potential cutter plays and any type of pick and roll with Ben. He might also not even be back with the team after the season is up. So regardless of the lineup this season, it could just be a total loss besides salary relief. And his health is an entire other question. But, it's an option, and it's probably the easiest one to go with. Other potential suitors that I looked at were the Magic, who have Josh Hart as their best small forward and are still kind of desperate for offensive talent. They just traded for Miles Turner, so it looks like Mo Bamba could be on the block. But after looking further into any type of trade with them, it didn't really look like the salaries could work, so I abandoned that one for now. The only other destination that would make any sense is the Jazz, and they are definitely the most interesting out of all of them. So here's the trade. Tobias Harris, Shake Milton, our 2023 unprotected first-round picks, and 2 second-round picks for Bojan Bogdanovic, Dennis Schroeder, and Joe Ingles. So Bojan is 32 years old, making $18 million this year and $20 million next year, and is surely to decline, especially in 2K. As to why we're getting Dennis Schroeder, it's because they just gave Lonzo Ball a bunch of money and have guys like George Hill and Chris Dunn to play behind him, so we're somewhat unclogging the point guard rotation. As for the inclusion of Shake Milton, He's a young guy who can handle the ball and give you some decent offensive production, and he's under team control for next year. And with Duncan Robinson out for the season, and the only other guy they have to play behind Donovan Mitchell is Maioni. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but that's not a real rotation guy at this point in his career. Then obviously the first and second round picks are compensation for the salary. Joe Ingles is just a $14 million expiring contract. He's probably barely playable for most teams at this point. This deal I really think could help both sides a lot, and it would make figuring out what to do with our small forward position a lot easier. I think this also helps the Jazz, who are borderline right now, and the offensive production of Tobias could really help them out. They also have the defensive personnel to help cover up his deficiencies, with Lonzo Ball, Chris Dunn, Donovan Mitchell. But yeah, it's looking like a pretty decent trade that would be honestly pretty good for both sides. So what do you think of the deals we're presented with? Do we think the Jazz offer is too much? Do we just go with the Pistons deal? Or do we try to pursue a deal with the Magic? We've got a few options to look at, and I'm hoping that we can get something to help us maybe right now, but also in the future, if that makes any sense. It's looking like it's going to be a little bit more of a true title contenders, so we have a lot of things to work on. We might be busy this trade deadline.